Hi there and welcome to How to Sell a House. In this quick video we'll look at the importance of setting your home up to sell and the difference it can make to the price you sell for and even the amount of time it takes for you to sell. But before we do that, let's just take a quick look to remind ourselves exactly how properties are valued. Okay, so here it is then, our valuation formula. The location of your property is always the primary factor. Then there's the size, which is worked out in square footage or square meterage and should not be confused with the amount of bedrooms you have. And finally, it's down to your property's condition, which is what we're here to look at. To do that, we'll use these two properties which were on the market at the same time in the same area. And when I say same area, they were literally 120 metres apart. We picked them because they were both 3-bed detached houses with off-road parking, garages and gardens. So we picked up their journeys when the sales had been agreed in December 2024. The market was good and properties were generally selling well. A point of interest, whilst both properties had been reduced at various stages, we noticed property 2 had been on the market substantially longer than property 1. Maybe it was because it was too highly priced. Let's take a look. As you can see, property 2 was on the market for just £412,500, which is a lot cheaper than property 1. But it doesn't stop there. The actual selling price for property 2 was just £391,500, some £118,500 less than property 1. So surely it couldn't have been the price. So if it wasn't the price, maybe it was the way the property was laid out, or something was wrong with the room sizes. Okay, so here are the floor plans, and it looks like property 2 is actually the bigger house, having 3 double bedrooms as well as a study. All the rooms look to be well proportioned, there's nothing not to like. So it's a much cheaper house, it's a bigger house, and it's in the same location. There's only one thing left to look at, and that is the condition. But does it actually really look that bad? Yes, it's a poorly taken photo compared to property 1, and yes, you could argue it looks a little tired and unloved. But surely that can't be the reason that property has lost nearly £120,000. Well, the short answer is yes, it is the reason, and here's why. As a seller, you need to understand one thing, and that is there are only 2 types of buyer out there. You've got premium buyers and speculative buyers. The premium buyer does not want to buy a property that needs DIY. They want a ready-to-move into home and are willing to pay a premium price for the right property. Whereas speculative buyers love doing properties up because it means they can add value and make profit. Sadly, they will not be looking to pay a premium price. They will be looking to get your house as cheap as possible and will often be looking for further price reductions later on down the road. So you need to decide before you put your property on the market which buyer you want to attract. I, for one, want to attract a premium price, so it makes sense for me to try and present my property as best I can. As you will come to see through this video, property 2 doesn't really have any significant issues that we can see. It looks as though it's purely down to the way it's presented. Let's have a quick look at how both properties were presented online and use AI to enhance the look of property 2 to see if we can make the 2 properties a little more evenly matched. So starting with the outside, let's add a coat of paint to the rendering, fix up the garage door, take down the boundary wall and repave the driveway. Then we'll add some raised flower bed borders, and to finish let's reframe the photograph to make it front and centre of our stage. Yes, we could have spent at least £10,000 making these changes, but you can already see they were worth doing, especially when we compare them to how the property was being marketed and also the price it achieved. Let's take a look. Okay, so here's before, and as a premium buyer I would not be interested in property 2 simply because it looks tired and in need of a lot of work. However, if I was a speculative buyer, I would be passing on property 1 because it's too nice, and I'd be concentrating my efforts on property 2 to see how cheap I could get it. But now, these houses look a lot more evenly matched. As a speculative buyer, I'm no longer interested in this lovely looking house, but as a premium buyer with £500,000 to spend, I am loving the look and want to know more. And that's the whole point. First impressions really count. It doesn't take a lot to put a premium buyer off. Poorly taken front photos or properties which look tired get discarded very quickly. Now let's take a look inside. So the entrance hall in property 2 doesn't look that bad, but if I was a premium buyer, I definitely would be more interested in property 1. So let's try evening things up a little. Ah, that's better. The door's been painted, the stairwell carpet to the first floor has been neutralised, wooden flooring has been added to the main hall, the picture frame has been repainted, a new rug laid, and a little table has been added with some delicate furnishings to finish. It wasn't expensive either. We would have spent £300 decorating and £650 on carpets, flooring and furnishings. Now let's take a look at those sitting rooms. Okay, so this is a really badly taken photograph. You don't get to see any of the room's features such as the bay window or stained glass windows. Instead, your eyes are drawn to the red fireplace, the cluttered coffee table, the TV screen, the string lights hanging from the wall, and worst of all, the damp stain above the door. We really need to work some magic here. Wow, what a transformation. We've toned down the decor, decluttered the room, and simply matched up the furnishings. Let's call it £650 for the declutter and redecoration, £450 for the new carpet and rug, and say £1,000 for the new curtains and furnishings. We didn't need to change the settee, we could have just thrown some lovely throws over to tone down those bold colours. This room not only looks bigger than property 1, our neutral colours mean would-be buyers can easily imagine their furniture in there. Let's take a look at the dining rooms. So the dining room in property 2 has great bones. It's light, bright and spacious. Unfortunately, it's lacking identity. It looks like a workroom. The photo is partially blocked by what looks to be the side of a pine dresser. There is a huge plastic storage unit blocking our view of what should be an archway into the conservatory. The table is not dressed. There's a piece of wood on the radiator. The list goes on. Simply put, there's a lot going on in this room and none of it says fine dining in the eyes of a buyer. So let's work some AI magic. And there you have it, we've decluttered and neutralised the look of the room. Cost us £650, we've sanded and varnished that beautiful floor another £350. We've then reset the dining room table and added some comfortable looking chairs, £250. And to finish, we've dressed the room with some lovely soft furnishings, another £250. It's a great looking space. Now it's time to view the kitchens. As we all know, kitchens are big ticket items in any home. They really need to be presented well for photos. You definitely do not want buyers seeing cluttered work surfaces, cat bowls, and certainly no bins taking centre stage. And another photo from another angle, and our eyes are still distracted by all that clutter. Let's make a few changes. Okay, so that's much better. We've started with a simple declutter, then we've changed the central light to ceiling spots for £350. We've swapped out the work surfaces for a cleaner look, £500. We've added a double storage unit under the breakfast bar, £200, and relocated that bin. Then we freshened the cupboard fronts with a coat of paint, retiled the floor, added some essential furnishings, and finished with a good clean. What a transformation, and for less than £2,000. Let's have another look from another angle. Again, we're seeing light, clean and clear work surfaces. It really is amazing how a few changes can make such a dramatic difference. So let's take a quick look at the additional downstairs rooms. Property 1 has this playroom and property 2, the conservatory. And whilst the photo shows the size of the conservatory, our eyes are drawn to the failed double glazed unit in the door and that bold blue paintwork. Let's tone it down a little. Perfect. We've replaced the double glazed unit for £200, neutralised the decor for £650 and changed the flooring for £350. It's all about presenting spaces where buyers can imagine their furniture without having to carry out major redecoration and repairs. Okay, so let's have a quick look around upstairs, starting with the master bedroom. It's a lovely big room. It's just a shame our eyes are distracted by all those purples, pinks and pine cluttered surfaces. Let's have a go at toning those down. Great, so we've decluttered and neutralised the decor at £650, we've toned down the pine furniture for £600 and finally reset the room with light matching soft furnishings for £250. Let's assume bedrooms 2 and 3 are decorated similarly and we've spent the same money upgrading them. One thing property 1 doesn't have is a 4th room upstairs, which is a really big win for property 2, so let's take a look and see how it's presented. Wow, that's such a shame. It's being presented as merely a storage room. It's really important to give all your rooms identity so buyers can imagine themselves living there. Let's have a look at how the room could have been presented. Perfect. Now we have a functional home office and at a cost of less than £750. What a lovely room to have over property number 1. Now let's take a look at those bathrooms. Wow, Property 1 has gone all out on this bathroom, so I doubt we'll ever compete with it unless we spend a fortune. That said, it's only a bathroom, so we don't need to go too crazy. But we can declutter, we can get rid of dirty looking towels and maybe spruce things up a little. Let's have a go and see how we get on. Okay, that's much better. We've decluttered, we've freshened up the tiling for £650, we've changed the carpet for £350, changed the mirror, painted the bath panel and matched up the towels for £500. It was never going to be on par with Property 1, but at least it looks modern, fresh and clean. Now it's just the garden. And in fairness, gardens and outside spaces are incredibly appealing or off-putting spaces depending upon how they are presented. Property 2 clearly has the bigger garden, so it should automatically put it ahead of Property 1, but it looks tired and unloved. You can see bulb patches in the lawn and there's an old set of table and chairs centre stage. And here are the patio areas. Again, Property 2 just looks tired and in need of a lot of work. Remember, premium buyers will be looking for ready-made spaces, so we really need to remodel things a little. And wow, what a transformation to Property 2. We've added a lovely patio area with a modern table and chairs, we've created a lovely central path leading to the rear, and we've restocked the flower beds to add colour. At the back, we've added a further patio area and a lovely cabin/studio room, which has just turned this garden into a luxury outside space any family would love to enjoy. It's not been cheap, it's cost about £10,000. We could have spent less, but sometimes it's worth going the extra. Now let's have a look at our total spend on making this property fit for market. Well, it's not been cheap, and we would have needed a good 6 months to complete our transformation. So what did it all cost? So, to transform that tired front with the broken driveway, we spent a hefty £10,000. Then we worked our way through the property, all the downstairs rooms, starting with the entrance hall at £950. We then went on to the lounge and spent £2,100. We spent a further £1,500 on the dining room and £1,450 on the conservatory, and finally £1,750 in the kitchen. We then went upstairs and spent £1,500 on the master bedroom and a further £1,500 on each of the other upstairs bedrooms. We then had the extra study room, which we spent £750 on, and a further £1,500 on the bathroom. And then it was just left to the outside. So we went out the back and we spent a whopping £10,000 transforming the garden. So our total spend would have been £34,500, which sounds like a huge amount of money, and it is, but remember, 70% of our spend is on labour, so the more we do ourselves, the more cost effective it will all work out. But was it worth it? Well, let's just remind ourselves what each of the properties originally sold for in the real world. So I guess we really need to work out whether our spend was worthwhile, and whether or not our property is now really worth the £500,000 against the £391,500 it originally sold for. Well, let's pitch it again against the £500,000 Property 1 to see how we get on this time.